Podcast on the Scrum Guide 2020. It's not often that the Scrum Guide gets an update because old Scrum Guide was already pretty succinct and clear to me as a PST, but that's me, I'm just working with it a lot. But now there's a new Scrum Guide out there. And even though the previous Scrum Guide was already pretty short, 16 to 19 pages, depending on your printer. It's now even shorter. So there's been some drastic changes. And we thought it'd be fun to reach across the pond to our friends in Britain, in the UK, and see if we could still chat. And Zoom still works. So Brexit is still good. We're still working across boundaries, even with Brexit. So hi, with me are Steve Traps, Jasper Alblas, and Andy Hiles, all awesome PSTs, providing Scrum trainings all over the world. And tonight we're just going to dig in a bit into these changes of the Scrum Guide and see what we'll find. And hopefully we'll learn some stuff, and you too. So a very short round of introductions, because there may be people listening that are not familiar with these four awesome trainers we have here. Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Traps. I'm based in the UK. I am a professional Scrum trainer and a very active Scrum Master, helping various different organizations understand the true power of Scrum. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's awesome. Jasper.
Yeah, my name is Jasper. I'm based in the Netherlands. Been PST since 2018. Working with a couple of organizations that are undergoing agile transformations. Currently, the municipality of The Hague, also as a Scrum Master for one team. And yeah, so Scrum in practice and teaching it also a lot. I love it. Great to be here.
Thanks. And Andy.
Yeah, my name's Andy Hiles. I'm a professional Scrum trainer from the UK. I don't know what to say as an intro. I was kind of like, I was listening to everyone else going, oh yeah, that's really interesting. What do I do? I was also
Andy, you are interesting.
I'm sure I am. I was also listening to Steve Traps and realizing how much he sounds like he should be on radio. He has a very...
apparently I've got the face for radio.
You definitely have.
You do.
So yeah, so my passion lies in product management, product ownership, and a lot in the Kanban space and flow. I think is kind of where my passions lie. Obviously, I like Scrum. It's just Scrum with flow is way better. Much more fun. Right, dig myself out of this hole. Help me out, please.
For people who want to know more about Andy, I think you have a podcast too, right?
Yeah.
This gets published here, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can link it in one way or another. But I've got a series of YouTube chats. Actually, Steve's on there as well, under the title of Agile Rocks, where we talk to not just PSTs. Actually, talk to kind of most people in the community who are doing Scrummy Agile stuff, and we get them on and we just have a general chat. Just about them and their experience, and then get them to kind of talk about themselves a lot more. So it's kind of less about us and actually just kind of trying to give something back to the community that, that just isn't out there at the moment. So thank you for giving the opportunity to promote that.
Yeah, we should, because then if people watch that and listen to that, they get a proper introduction of you, probably, even though you're not talking a lot. But we're trying to change that here. So for everyone that's listening, now's your chance to hear Andy talk about stuff and have an opinion about stuff instead of just being the host as a cop-out, which is what I am. So I am Sjoerd Kranendonk. I'm a PST based in the Netherlands. I work I think since less than a year, I've been working with Jasper and a few other Dutch PSTs as Scrum Facilitators. And my regular daytime job is Scrum Master and Agile Coach at the Dutch Police, where I work with teams that research and prevent and track and investigate cybercrime. So that's a bit of difference from the regular Scrum, but we try. And
we are always a bit aware of, stuff that goes about rules and stuff like that. If we
yes. So within Scrum Facilitators, I'm always the one
it's a Scrum police.
Aware of copyrights, personal data, and GDPR stuff like that. So I'm Scrum police. Anyway, that's kind of also why I'm very interested in this Scrum Guide update, because I think it also provides even more accessibility and guidance for people working in non-IT environments and still want to benefit from Scrum. So let's dig into it, right? Everybody ready?
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So I referred to this already in the introduction. It's even less prescriptive, as Kenny likes to mention it. So what do you think of that? It's shorter. What gives?
Yeah, it's dramatically shorter. It's 13 pages now. Irrespective of the printer, I think, which is a great line.
It's good for the environment.
13 pages. They've taken a lot of things out of there. They've taken a lot of things out and clarified a lot of things as well. So for me, it's really nice to see.
Yeah, it's quite a feat, I think, to make it shorter and clearer. Like clarification for me is often talking more about it. That's also why I'm not Ken Schwaber, of course.
So that was the interesting thing that like shorter meaning less, but actually I was talking to somebody earlier on today, I think, around a related subject, and I was kind of saying how it's almost widened yet it's really weird. It's widened yet narrowed the perspective. And what I mean by that is actually the true intent of Scrum comes across a lot more, right? So on reading the language around why Scrum exists, and now these changes which we'll come into without kind of going too deep, but actually it opens it up for more applications. So you're saying you're working with cybercrime, but actually just outside of software, but yet narrows the focus around, look, this was the intention of Scrum, and it was this more open, and as Jasper said, it's like it's a framework, and it really opens it up to being a framework for me. Whereas I think before there were prescriptive things in there, and and it made it complicated perhaps.
Yeah, and it makes it more applicable in a lot of situations where we were just joking about Scrum policing, but there's just a lot of things that you don't have to Scrum police anymore. So I read a really good example. Can I go into this already?
Yeah, let's go.
Fine, right? Yeah. So previously there's always something like you have to take something from your retrospective to the sprint backlog, right? Which could be a good thing because you need to take time to incorporate improvements and stuff like that. But when I see myself as a Scrum Master, as the team coach of the team as well, sometimes it's just having a really good conversation with your team that doesn't necessarily lead to product backlog items on your sprint or and that concrete, but it brings up space for team improvement on a deeper level, like on below the surface, and that's something I really like in retrospectives. That's one of the aspects what I really enjoy. Of course, it's always good to have tangible things, and you have to work on tangible things to improve. But also just, if a team is stuck somewhere in the middle and you just have a fruitful conversation, which is really good. So there were a number of things like that that were previously really prescriptive and now just open up a lot of more space for even broader improvements maybe.
Yeah, I think this also hopefully will address some of the critiques Scrum's been getting sometimes as being the training wheels of Agile. I don't know if you've heard of this comment sometimes. Steve, I see you smiling. Well, what does this comment do with you? Training wheels of Agile. People call Scrum that.
Yeah, I've heard that. Oh, people start doing Scrum and then they move on to something else. It's like almost like a progression of, going through the school or whatever of Agile. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you really want to start Scrum, but the end goal is over there when you're doing whatever. And this is not true. There's highly performant teams using Scrum, and if you can get Flow in there as well for Andy, that's really good as well. Mm-hmm. So, and it's training school for Agile. No, it's not. It's a powerful framework in which we can use in complex worlds. And moving, removing the IT language, I think is going to open up into other areas. I mean, we've all helped other organizations that are not really seen as IT areas. And it's always like, oh yeah, but we're not a software house. We're not a whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, but you can use that. And when we say developer, it just means, somebody that's developing the product, not a software engineer. So it's a real shift away from the IT focus, and taking out references to IT, I think, is going to be a big bonus, because this
must be like really good news for you, Sjoerd. How have you read this?
Yeah, kind of. I must say I won't go into the particular challenges we have too deeply, but because I want to keep this discussion more focused on the Scrum Guide in itself. But and I think the previous Scrum Guides already had these sections explaining where Scrum was being applied successfully already. So there was already some stuff that you could hook onto and show, well, it's done over there, so why couldn't we? But the thing I like very much, and that's why I mentioned the training wheels before, is that being less prescriptive, having less of the this event should have these 3 questions or language that could be read to imply that, because it didn't say you should do this, but you could do this. But taking it out entirely, and we're talking about the daily Scrum here, of course, means it opens up to various ways of applying practices to reach the goal of these events of Scrum. Yeah. And this also means that you, as a Scrum Master or as a Scrum team, you can tune the practices to the level of self-organization or self-management, as it's now called in the new Scrum Guide. And you can really, Scrum is not the training wheels anymore, right? So it's now the additional practices that you can put on or take off or tune to make a team find their own balance. And I think that's one of the biggest wins that this guide being less prescriptive is to me, and will also be helpful in my my situation of not being an IT, because the language is cleared up. And I have to say, and now I'd like to give this to Andy if you like. They're still describing developers, right? It's no development team anymore, but still developers. So. But maybe this is a good moment to dig into the one team focused on one product aspect of the guide, and the language changes around that. Andy.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean there's lots of big ones for me. This is certainly on my list. I don't know how you knew it was on my list, but it's certainly one of them on my list. The kind of this whole one team aspect, that we are one unit together, was always kind of implied but never concrete. It was as Steve's kind of aware of it, I created an exercise which I would run in the training, the Scrum training, which was all from the guide. And there's a very long story behind this, but I copied all the references to the roles and what they were meant to do out onto cards, and then people would play a game around trying to match them. And then I would always throw in the Scrum team as a role, right? And then people go, hang on, how can we assign things to that role? Now, when you look in the guide now, actually there's a huge weight. I mean, I've recreated this exercise for for the new guide, and the weight used to be in the product owner and the Scrum Master. It's now way over into the Scrum team as a collective, and this kind of idea that there's not development team, and we have accountabilities, not roles here. Again, it's just like this subtly huge shift in language. I do wonder how this is going to play in real life. That's kind of, I think on this whole, one team, one unit, I think that's common sense. I think that's brilliant. I don't see that being a problem. But I think that whole definition of now developer accountability, product owner as an accountability, Scrum Master as an account, and we'll come back. I really want to, there's a couple of things about the Scrum Master I want to really pick up. But I think I wonder how that's going to play out, and how people are going to react, whether we're going to, and what I mean by this is a lot of companies structured their teams around roles. So there was a Scrum Master role, there's a product owner role, there was a development team role, perhaps, or you're a developer or a lead developer, but now actually everyone's a developer. Right. So I wonder what the actual practical implementation and implications are. Whether we're going to see that trickle into organizations or actually going to start creating Scrum teams. And actually, I think there will be positives, but I do wonder what possibly could fall out of it.
So, Steve or Jasper, what kind of things do we see in organizations currently that we work with, where they might struggle with the new accountabilities instead of very explicit roles, like, for instance, in the governance or the hiring structures that they apply, or stuff like that? Do you expect problems there,
Steve? Because I think there's a challenge there, because the role of the product owner, as described in the previous Scrum Guide, is already a very difficult one to put into practice, to really have a good product owner, caring about the product, maximizing value, a bit vague sometimes also. So how do you make that concrete? And often I find it difficult in organizations to find people who want to dedicate their career, and maybe Andy, you focus also on the product owner role a lot. They want to do it part-time sometimes, or alongside another business analyst role, or coming from other roles. So this might also be sort of a way to hold on to that, instead of saying, you really should have this product owner stand for your product, which is, it implies accountability, of course, is a big word as well, and it implies a lot. But maybe it's also sort of an escape, like, okay, so I can do this also alongside of all my other tasks. Or maybe...
So are you suggesting that we're going to have more of we do Scrum, but we don't do that, or we do a little bit of this because of the less prescriptive? Yeah. People's interpretations are going to make this a little bit more, we kind of do Scrum, but we don't do that bit. Or
there's a big advantage in having a broader sense and being less prescriptive, but it means also that there's going to be a lot more discussion around how are we going to make this work, right? And how you can convince people.
So are we looking more towards the Scrum Master to actually step up a little bit here and say, in the first opening lines, actually, sorry, I've got it in front of me. I should really reference it. The Scrum, where is it? In a nutshell, Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment where, bang, straight away. And if people are not doing that, then the Scrum Master, or they're interpreting it slightly differently, or the Scrum Master needs to potentially go, hey, that's a great idea. There's some benefits there. You could probably get a lot more benefit by doing X, Y, and Z. So the Scrum Master really comes into the heart of this a bit more as that key player, that
so
innovator.
I think this is where I go back to that whole Scrum team thing, the hidden role that's been in Scrum, right? And I really wish and would like and want to see organizations really embracing that team identity, right? We're creating a Scrum team, and that Scrum team is focused. They're focused on the product goal and the sprint goal. And that's what we're going after in the product backlog, and we're going to make sure we maximize the value that we're delivering. We have a Scrum Master who's now, and dig into that Scrum Master role. My God, there is so much language around that Scrum Master role. If people are confused about what a Scrum Master does after reading this guide, I would be really surprised, really, really surprised. As Steve said, like line 2 or whatever it is, it's one of the first lines.
Yeah,
the Scrum Master is there to foster an environment, all around Scrum. And if they're not doing that as their job, well, you've now got something to measure your Scrum Masters against. It's clear as day. But I think it's now an opportunity where organizations would say, yeah, we'll create a development team and we'll support them with this kind of vague product owner Scrum Master structure. No, right? Now we go and do Scrum, right? Now, if you're going to take Scrum seriously, you create a Scrum team. And it looks like this, and it has those accountabilities. They're a little unit, and they almost, I kind of imagine like this protected little bubble, right? And they are developing, really good value, and that's how that's when I started, I talked to the start around kind of Scrum being this kind of like simple, kind of narrow yet kind of wide and kind of more concrete in its nature. That for me is like the essence of it, is like creating a unit to go and execute a task. And this is within that we have the rules of the game for Scrum, but I think the pulling on that hidden role for the Scrum team, and I will talk about the product goal and the sprint goal being really important, but I think organizations have an opportunity now to really go and look at that as a thing and go, actually, do you know what, we'll start creating Scrum teams, because that actually makes a lot more sense.
Do you know what, something's just occurred to me? I wonder how many people doing Scrum at the moment, pre-2020, they're in a Scrum team, but they don't realize they're in a Scrum team. They're part of a different unit, and they happen to be using Scrum as their framework or their choice of product development. But picking up a yes and from Andy, having that Scrum team and organizations making it and going, hey, you are a Scrum team, you're using Scrum. It's almost opening people's eyes. I don't know if that's a bit too far to go. You're part of you're a Scrum team. Act like a Scrum team. Here are the rules, and here are what Scrum teams are accountable for. This is what we're expecting from you. You're not a part. Apologies. Oh.
You're right over there. I'd hand you a drink, but
I think I was getting too enthusiastic about it. Definitely was. You're not a sub team. You're part of this team. You're not a part of the development team. You're part of the team. And this team, the only team that there is the Scrum team. And here are all your accountabilities. Off you go.
There's no separation. There's no separation between those roles. It's just, one accountable team.
I think it was Gunther Verheijen in his book, The Pocket Guide, who always described the Scrum team as the atomary unit of Scrum. And it took me a while to realize what he meant. And I think thank you for showing it. And it's also the first print, I think. So it's a collector's item by now, the first edition. So if you get it, the first edition is great, but the second edition is even greater. But it's not tunes for the new Scrum Guide, so there might be a third edition soon, you never know. Anyway, the brilliance of it, the Scrum team is the atomary unit, and this new Scrum Guide brings that point home very nicely. And I think I do recognize what Steve's mentioning, even in my own current coaching and Scrum Master role, that having too much of a emphasis on the separate roles of the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the development team really can divide instead of unite. We even had in our community, Jasper, recently a question of a learning Scrum Master, and it was an awesome question, like, should I participate as a Scrum Master in the retrospective, or should I just facilitate? And we explored the 2017 Scrum Guide to look into that, because the other one wasn't there yet. And actually, there's some language in the old Scrum Guide already talking about the retrospective as an event for the whole Scrum team. And nowhere it says that the Scrum Master should only facilitate there, right? So there was already some language in the older guide emphasizing the whole team approach, but it's more explicit. And it also goes for some other stuff that's more explicit. I mean, Andy already called out, like the product goal. There was never a product goal, but like having this list of things we think we should build or implement or add to our product that had a certain goal, right? There was a thing that we're trying to do, but there was no mention of it in the Scrum Guide, and now it's there, and then it's just more explicit and shorter. It's stays strange.
What I like about it is punchy. It's
punchy,
reading it, and you know, when it talks about transparency, it's transparency enables inspection. Bang! Without inspection, without transparency, is misleading and wasteful. Bang! It's like, you know, it's clear. It's less prescriptive and concise. It's just clear.
Yeah,
there's less interpretation there. Yeah, and I think as somebody that lives within Scrum, it's nice to see.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of times the words I've been searching for when delivering a Scrum training or trying to explain stuff to a team or whatever, talking about Scrum, the words I've been looking for are now finally written somehow. And it's strange because the previous Scrum Guide really wasn't like in bad shape or something like that, but it had evolved over the years. And some stuff removed, some added, but I think this revision was so thorough in like really fully rewriting, I think, based on the purpose of stuff and really getting to that punchline for everything there in there. It's really a change.
You know, each of the events, it starts with, bang, the purpose of is this. You know, the product owner is accountable for this. Okay, fine.
I was going to pick up on something. You know, so the word commitment. So commitment. Gosh, like I don't know how many times in your training you've come across people kind of saying, "Oh, we commit to the sprint backlog," right? So. And commitment was kind of you know, a value, right? And so, you know, we were explaining commitment away and saying, well, you're committing to the sprint goal, not the sprint backlog. And that was kind of like, but actually this edition's added commitment as a thing, right? And it's again, it's explicit. So we have the sprint goal has its own commitment path. Definition of done has its own commitment path, and you know, the product goal, this new thing that was probably, again, it's kind of one of those things that's probably there, much like the values. The values were there for years, but nobody talked about them. And the product goal probably was there, but was never really talked about. We now have that.
Yeah, so that's actually that's a radical change, right? Because we had the values, Scrum values, we had the principles like the empiricism, and we had the three things like many religions that were the roles, the artifacts, and the events. And now there's actually a fourth thing, or depending on how you count, a sixth thing. Anyway, so and that's the commitments. The commitments, and we talked about the product goal already. That's really a new thing that's been added, that's never been in there, but the commitments also provide a home for the definition of done and the sprint goal. And this was also so frustrating teaching Scrum to me. So for me as a teacher, it's much more easy, but I'll leave it to you to talk about what it does in practice, because that's more harder to explain, I think. But as a teacher, I always had to say, okay, so there's three core elements of Scrum. It's the roles, it's the artifacts, it's the events, right? Those are the things. Oh yes, and there's this list of stuff that's also important, but they're not roles, artifacts, or events.
Yeah.
Now let's get
are they mandatory? Are they not mandatory? Yes, they're mandatory.
Yes.
Why are they not called mandatory?
Yeah. So, and why is a definition of done an artifact? And then you have to and I really had to guess, right? Because there was no explanation from Ken or Jeff about why this was so, or if they had explained it, it was always different from each other. And now the definition of done is a commitment. It's a thing. So What
Oh,
does this
and
mean? Is that we
way
have the
more.
sprint goal, the definition of
Yeah,
done, and the product goal as commitments.
yeah. I mean, done is way more simple. I was explaining this previously about how I don't know whether it was one of your I'll have to dig out the originator of the thread on Slack, but there was an internal trainer question around done. It was like I can't remember how it was titled, but it was something like, I don't know how to describe done. And then this whole thread that I've never, it just went endless and endless. And somebody beautifully summarized it. But even the summary on done in the trainers network was, you could print it out and it be an A4, regardless of what printer you pick. Okay, it was one sheet of A4, but it was just like, everyone's interpretation. Now it's basically saying, the moment an item, a product backlog item, reaches done, an increment is born. I'm kind of paraphrasing. I think that's kind of what it says in the guide, but it's now just like really simple. And it doesn't need to, and the accountability, yes, we need, somebody needs to go and create it, but it's not overly complicated, whether it's there, whether it's not, whether whether the wind's blowing from the east, whether you need to kind of, create a definition of done. I mean, it's just incredibly simple. And I think it goes back to this commitment thing, which is, we never really talked, we always implied professionalism coming with done and quality, but we're now saying it has to be.
Yeah,
you have to. You basically, every increment commits to done, which equals quality, and that's simple.
Yeah, and it reaches both ways, like you say, because the moment a backlog item gets done, it's part of the increment, right? So there's also no more discussion about, we have to wait until the sprint review and then we can release the new increments. Scrum is slow.
But there is no undone anymore to explain.
Yes.
There.
Oh no, we'll still.
Or is there?
We'll still have to explain it for sure.
Yeah, we'll start.
I mean, the bit of language I think I'd have liked to have seen, but again, it may be overcomplicated. So the scaled guide had integrated as part of the definite, so every increment, every change should be integrated as part of the definite, like in terms of reaching done. The whole thing's gone up my brain for some reason, but I liked that as a way of just tuning done a little bit more for people who are kind of working multiple teams, right? And I know this is meant to be simple and one team and all that kind of stuff, but actually, how many people out there are using Scrum with one team? One product, one team. How many?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wondering, maybe I'm picking your thoughts on this, because I really like the product goal. It sort of gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a concrete way to embody your vision as a product owner but also to incorporate, again, as a whole Scrum team, you have this focus on this product. And of course, we have a lot of teams who work, multiple teams on one product, but also there are teams who, develop and sustain multiple products. So, do we have one product goal for one product, or, is it more like
I think it's the rules still apply, right? So it's one product owner, one product backlog, one product, one product goal. I mean, there could be, I mean, gosh, yeah. Again, there's probably, I think this was the one that probably caused the most fuss. I don't know, the product goal, where does it live? I think if you treat the product goal like the sprint goal, it exists to create a direction for the team, centered around the product. Because like, I don't know your experience, but it was difficult at times to coach teams to create good product goals. Good sprint goals, because there wasn't a product vision or a product goal that kind of never existed. So now we've got this thing that has to exist. The product vision wasn't ever a thing. It was one of these, you ought to have one, but it's not, it's not a thing. But it's really, it's like refinement. You ought to do it, yeah, but it says it's optional. It's 10% of our capacity, whatever that meant. That's gone, by the way. That's kind of cool. But we've now got this product goal, right? And we've now got something to hold people kind of accountable. This commitment thing for me.
So, are we saying, or is the Scrum Guide saying, that a team should only ever be working on one product?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we
Andy
are.
says yes, and Sjoerd says,
Well, if you think about teams that, okay, hey folks, we're going to do Scrum, but you're going to have to support 3 products. Okay, fine. Does that mean we have 3 product backlogs? And how is the team going to work? Okay, well, one of the way you could do is have 1 product backlog, and that work gets fed through. But then does that mean you have to have a product goal per product? Yes. But the Scrum guide says, and this is the bit that I've just been looking at, and now I've lost it. It lives within the product backlog. So this is there's something going on here. How can you have multiple product goals in one product? Oh, that's because that's product A, that's product B. No. Hey, what's going on?
Why are you complicated?
So this is going to create a lot of conversation.
You know the answer to this. You know the answer. Come on, don't. You can't be serious, right? Yes, right? Okay, so Andy's rules of life, right? Can you? Should you? I don't know whether you guys have been introduced to my 3 rules of life. 1 is can you? 2 is should you, and 3 is it the right thing? It's like can you have multiple products, teams working on multiple products? Yeah, sure. Should you? Well, it's probably not the best idea. Is it the right thing to do? No, right? It's like trying to bake 3 different cakes all at the same time for the same birthday party.
We're special, Andy. We're special, and we have to work this way.
You might be special. I'm
in the wrong ways. Yes, I know. Okay, yeah, I am playing with you, but that's what a lot of organizations are going to be saying. Is like, well, hey, this is Team Alpha, and they look after 6 products. What are we doing?
let's not get into the
I know. I was a slip there, but products.
It just what occurs to me is if you encounter a team like this, of course, I think we all agree. A Scrum team should have 1 product backlog. That's just out of the question. That's just it's not out of the question. It's a fact. That's the way. That's the way you create focus. If you have multiple products that you sustain and you work on, and somehow in your organization you cannot split that up, or not yet maybe, or you're not in a phase where or a state where you live where you can do that. If you look at a team and you just the team as not a Scrum team, just a team. What is it that makes a team a team? It is that that common purpose that everybody works towards. That has nothing to do even with Scrum. It's just if you have a team with all kind of people working on different things, then you're just colleagues. You're not a team. So
a team needs a common goal, you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
so that is the product goal. So work towards that if you're not in that state yet, right?
And
okay, I'll play nice now.
Yeah, okay, good.
To be in situations that you cannot apply this perfectly, indeed. And we've all seen them, and we've all lived them, I think. But the Scrum Guide is actually quite clear. So I'm going to do something, and that's called, quote, the Scrum Guide. And to help Steve out, because he was looking in his notes, I saw that. And actually, it's at the definition of the Scrum team in the first paragraph already. And the last sentence of the first paragraph is, the Scrum team is a cohesive unit of professionals focused on one objective at a time, the product goal. So not only it says the product goal, not a product goal, right? Which would be if there were multiple products and multiple product goals side by side, focusing on one product goal at a time. So you could do staggered sprints or something like that. No, it's the product goal. So, and one objective at a time. So, and that's also comes back in the product goal part of the Scrum Guide, that there's very clear language about abandoning a goal before setting a new one, or reaching it, or reaching it and then abandoning it. Read it for yourself. But and that's that's really clear. There should not be multiple product goals. Your product goals should not be like a goal roadmap that is then fixed and committed to by the team or whatever. There's one goal, we're working towards for the product. And okay, we can adapt to change, but then if we change the product goal, then there is a new product goal and the old one just goes away. Simple.
Steve's just turned into a troll. I haven't
turned into a troll. I'm just sat listening to Sjoerd there, thinking, wow, that actually is not wow. I always sit there and think, wow, with Sjoerd. But how powerful that statement, that first opening statement is.
Yep.
And I've read this quite a few times, and walking through it, you go, oh, okay, it's fine. But phrasing that question, it's like, no, it's there. It's one clear goal, one cohesive team. You cannot get any clearer. However, in the conversations I'm already having in my head with other clients, it's like, yeah, but we're slightly different. And I can see this is where now the Scrum Master, and this coming back to the first point, is the Scrum Master is going to have to really help those organizations understand how to work in Scrum, how to get the benefits, and what may need to change.
Yep.
And how that's going to happen. So I think it's a really exciting time.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, the Scrum Master role is, I think I'm really hoping, a lot of Scrum Masters read this and go, oh my God.
In a nice way.
Yeah. From a really good way. It's like, I think this is really powerful and empowering for Scrum Masters now. I think the Scrum Masters can now hold organizations accountable and say, look, if you really want to do Scrum properly, this is what you need to do. All right, let's go and create me a team. All right, let's get a product owner accountability that creates a product goal. Let's have that. If you want to do Scrum properly, this is what we need. It's there and it's clear and it's not obfuscated, you know what I mean, like hidden within a whole load of other language. I think it's kind of really cool for me.
Yeah.
I also think that because I hear you say, Andy, like if we want to do Scrum properly, I come across a lot of organizations that do not have that goal. They maybe rightfully not having Scrum as a silver bullet or as a it's a means to an end, but it creates a better means now and more clarity and more space to execute on in a manner that fits organizations as well. I think you still need to change. You still need to change things to get the benefits, and the Scrum Master to help explain and make those benefits transparent to the organization is really important.
See, something you just said, I was like really thinking, I wonder actually, how many organizations that start using Scrum as a way of delivering, value change, actually take it seriously. Actually, I like, kind of not just like, yeah, we'll do Scrum, but actually like really, I don't know. Until it's pointed out to them, it's like,
I don't think they do. I honestly don't think they do. I think they think, oh, okay, this is the latest. Well, it's not the latest. It's been around for a long time. It's agile training. This is the way that we're going forward. Hey, we have to do this because X is doing it. I'm not bothered. So I think the real thing that Scrum Master should be saying is, when do you want to get your benefits sooner? When do you want to actually start reaping the benefit of all the work that you're doing and the value that you're putting in? The way to do this is by having one cohesive team focusing on one product.
Yes.
And so
use the word Scrum, right? Because why should organizations want Scrum? They don't want Scrum. They want better business results. And Scrum is just a way to get it. So organizations don't want to do good Scrum. They want better business results, right? And
more flow.
Sorry?
more flow.
And more flow and more flow.
Yes. More flow. They want better business results.
Yeah. I will not start beatboxing now, but that's what happened in my head. Anyway, but the thing is, organizations want to deliver products that are valuable, that are in an effective way, and Scrum can help do that. And I think the new Scrum guide description can help Scrum Masters better explain it and better coach it. So that will be powerful. I want to highlight a very small thing before we move to the next topic. but it's related to the product goal, because in the section for the product goal, there's also something that was not in the Scrum Guide before, that is not really about the product goal, but it's about part of the product goal, and that is the product. Because right now in the old Scrum Guide that everybody has read, I hope, there's no description of what is a product. And now in the product goal section, there's a description of a product. And I think that's also very powerful. And it talks about how a product should deliver value and who it should deliver value for and stuff like that. And that's just a really small change, because it's just one sentence, but it's changes so much for the guide. I think that now the product has a description in there. So yeah, I just want to highlight that, because it always comes up in classes and teams I coach. What is our product? Well, just read the guide and then we can talk more about it, because that's a really good place to start. But there's a lot of more changed, and there's some important changes. For instance, in the past, we always talked about self-organizing teams. In the past Scrum Guide, 2017.
I still talk about self-organizing teams.
Yes, but now the language has changed in the Scrum Guide to self-managing. So what does this mean to you?
Everyone's silent. That's weird.
Yeah.
I was going to jump. So the language has changed to self-managing, and do you know what I thought was really interesting? Barry and Christian put out that really inflammatory LinkedIn and blog post about can a Scrum Master remove somebody from the Scrum team? Do you remember that? And that like really kicked off. There was
2 years ago.
It was a couple of years ago, and you know, in conclusion, yes. And when this change came through, sorry, spoiler alert.
If you haven't read that,
I thought you were going to do your 3 rules of Andy thing again.
Yeah, sorry. Can they? Yeah. But spoiler alert, they can. But this goes back to this point, right? So, and that's why I really found this interesting when this came up. This kind of like, so previously it was self-organizing, and it was like a hint. It was a hint at self-managing, right? It was a forgiving hint. We would like people to be kind of more brutal to each other, you know, and actually have choice. But now this does open that door, right? And manage, like this concept of self-managing does open that door, right? Can they hire and fire? Right?
Yeah, I get what you mean, and yet I believe the change also means that it should be more apparent that not just the who, the hire and fire, and the how is up to the team itself, but also the what. So making the product owner part of the team, not a separate role, and changing this language to self-managing. They're not just organizing in a direction that they get thrust upon them by the wider organization, but they're really self-managing with respect to the value they deliver, the choices they make, the way they do it. And it's become larger.
I think this also relates again back to that whole team aspect, right?
Yes.
I think the Scrum team being accountable and self-managing is, you know, I used to explain it like you could say the Scrum team is self-management because, you know, the product owner guides, you know, gives guidance to the what, and the development team decides on the how, and, you know, which creates sort of this separation again. So, and now you just have this one team accountable for that product. So again, you know, this is just clearer language around that topic.
That's it.
Yeah, you know, I wonder how this, you know, how this relates to practice. You know, people practicing Scrum in 2017 version versus 2020. What changes in this respect?
I mean, this is for me where it's going to come back to how, you know, this is theory versus practice now, and like with any change, there'll be a slow shift. My hope is a lot of people read this and change happens. Not immediately. There might be some reactionary, and I'd love to see that a little bit more. But I think it's as trainers, we all recognize those moments where you get people coming to the class and they come in and then they go away. You like, I don't know whether you guys like when we open up is, what do you know already? And they'll throw all the words on the wall and you just go, brilliant, you're experts, right? Now walk out the room. Okay. You don't need, and then by the end of 2 days, they walk away going, okay, I really didn't know Scrum. I know. So they come out 2 days and they've learned nothing. I don't mean that. They come out of the room and like the knowledge that they walked in with is very different to the one they walk out with, right? And they're going away going, we really know Scrum. And I think it paints a picture for me that a lot of people go blindly into it with zero training or other people's experience and implementation of what Scrum looks like. And they come out with varying different degrees of success, right? And some people go, yeah, I loved it. Some people go, oh, it was terrible because it was, death by daily stand-up, and, you see kind of varying degrees of that. And again, it's kind of, I would like people to take this change very seriously. I would like, but we can't enforce it. But I would hope that for me, this a lot of these changes inspire people to think about how they're using Scrum at the moment. I guess I would also encourage a load of Scrum Masters to go and pick this up and challenge themselves and their organizations that they're working with, because that's the only way it's going to actually affect any change, is to roll that back up. Kind of, I know it's kind of a long answer to your point, but I think a lot of what I see is not team level, it's not developer level, it is organizational level and how they treat this as a change enabler.
Yeah. I also, sorry, Sjoerd.
Yeah, add a small thing and then I'll boot it over to you, Steve. Because one thing you said about training made me think this may be the most important change to the Scrum Guide, and it's something you said before, Steve. So just putting those two things together, the new Scrum Guide has a lot more clarity around the purpose of the stuff that's in it. Like everything, every heading, and the first sentence after this describes the purpose much clearer than before, where it was a bit muddied, sometimes buried inside or in the last paragraph of a part or whatever. So knowing the purpose of stuff, that's also the biggest win I think people get from attending a training with one of us or one of our colleagues, right? So we tend to focus very much on the purpose of stuff, so people can survive in in their organizations where they encounter all different kind of stuff, even stuff that we couldn't talk about in the training because every situation is different. So I think that's a big plus for the new guide, and I really like that. Steve.
Yeah, I was just picking up and very quickly, the self-managing stuff. This is where Scrum Master should really delve back into the Scrum values and make sure the team understand the Scrum values. Because if you're self-managing and self-organizing and you're not sure of it, you're going to hopefully be falling back onto those values, just to allow that team to self-manage. For example, the courage to speak up and be open about issues that are going on. I've worked with teams that this wouldn't say boo to a goose, but everybody else knows that there's a problem here that needs solving, that needs managing. Oh, that's not my role. That's so-and-so's role. That's, well, no, it's not. It's commitment to the team, commitment to being professional, commitment to doing the best job you can, courage to speak up when things aren't right, and courage to ask when things are wrong, self-managing. So, hey, Scrum Masters, dust off your Scrum values retrospectives, because the teams are going to need those.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but this means something for developers as well, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to step up sort of here, it's sort of like also a bit tougher language, maybe.
Yeah.
Like self-management, it's more bold.
Is it treating people as adults?
Right.
Treating people as adults.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're not going to spoon feed you anymore.
Andy,
manage. Come on, step
treating
up.
people as adults. Should we? Can we?
Is it the right thing to do? Can you? It's optional, right? What do you? What's your? For everything in life is an option. And
success is a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You'll only find out how well it went after the fact. And I think there's the I think this is what this guy does for me is it takes a load of that kind of implied almost to the 3 topics in the daily Scrum, right? It takes that all away and just says, look, there's a load of interpretation in this stuff, but there's still a good grounding that you need to put in place to make this to make this work for the best of you, your team, your organization. And I think the sooner people wake up and really kind of start to embrace this and take it seriously, and this is like the professional side of it, but I don't know, it just feels it's a really good opportunity for a refresh for Scrum Masters, for teams to really pick it up and do something better, get rid of the dust off the old 2017 look and like go fresh for 2020.
It's the latest model.
It's the socially distanced version.
Thank you, Andrew.
Corona safe version.
That kind of feels like it's a nice closing monologue. But to really close off, I want to propose to do a round of what's the change in the Scrum Guide that you hope makes the biggest impact in practice? Because we've been talking about, okay, how does it affect practice? So I want to give each of you some time to pick out a change. And if you have the same change, just add to the previous person's thing, see what happens.
Steve's grabbed the guide. Steve's gone for the guide.
Yes.
Gone for the guide because there's so many.
Hoping makes the biggest impact in practice to Scrum teams' success, happiness, effectiveness, whatever your explanation or ambition is for the world. Make it big. Go big or go home. Then we go home. Oh, we're already home. What? Anyway, so
let's go first. Jasper, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You saw me see. Yeah, right.
I see.
I'm ready.
Go for it.
I'm really going for the commitments. So I really like the fact that it feels complete, right? It feels in place. Like there were a couple of things out of place, and this is just more natural. It closes it. It closes it off. So yeah, for me that is very. And then I got, because I chose commitments, I tick a lot of the boxes at once.
Okay, we're done. Stop the recording.
Stop the mic.
Drop the mic, yeah. Perfect score. No, thank you, Jasper, and also for keeping it short. Do that.
Steve, you want to go?
You go.
Me go? Okay. See, that's evil because I'm like torn between two. For me, I want to say done. Read the done thing, right? Read it. It's really important. But for me, it's the team. There's this kind of Scrum team as a definition. It's game over for me. It's all good. Create that. One unit, focus, value, flow. You're all good. Get it in there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm reading a menu going, oh, that looks good. And I read things that I've highlighted, but it comes down to a cohesive unit of professionals focused on one objective at a time. It's like, bang. Yes, professionals, cohesive, working together, one objective. Oh,
nice.
I'll have that, please.
Cool. Thank you for not letting me be the only one quoting the guide in this episode. It's virtual fist bump. You're on this side. Okay. For me, someone has to say it. I mean, it's the product goal. I hope the product goal gives Scrum finally its deserved legitimacy as a product development framework. And we can finally just stop discussing, we have product owners and product managers, and how does it go? Who serves who? Who has the final say? And stuff. No, we have a product goal. We have a value we deliver. the backlog is ordered to reach this goal, and we're sprinting, and we have sprint goals that are steps towards this goal. That's the one I hope gets picked up and people do it more. I already hope they do it now more. Now I have the Scrum guides to like, product goal, it's in there. Okay.
I think it's going to bring a lot, to the community. Not necessarily this conversation, but this new version, and I think we're going to, be a lot more, even more impactful in organizations if we take these changes and put them into practice, right?
Yes. To round off and keep ourselves in the illusion that people have listened or watched until this point, where can people find more if they're not done yet with what we're saying here? I mean, Jasper, where can they find more about us if they want to go to a training or?
Yeah, of course, you can go to scrumfacilitators.nl or .com. And you can find us at Meetup as well. So we host some meetups every now and then. And of course, in the Scrum community, Scrum.org, find your resources there. Very valuable. Yeah,
resources by us four and a lot of more people writing about Scrum, right? Yeah. Scrum.org. Also to book trainings, by the way.
Yeah.
So, Steve, where can people find you?
Usual places, LinkedIn, theagiletrainer.com, Twitter. Also, Andy and I run a meetup in the UK called the Scrum Coaches. So we tend to do one every month, every 6 weeks or so. So it's a really safe place, a really nice place to come and talk about Scrum with other practitioners. So,
nice one. Andy.
Yeah, I was going to say we are building the Scrum Coaches at a very slow rate. The
seems the Scrum slow coaches.
It's a very long sprint that's been going on for about a year. But yeah, so the scrumcoaches.com, you can or agilerocks.co.uk is kind of my home. But yeah, YouTube. I haven't got a slick link for YouTube yet. I'm working on that. But YouTube, you can Google Agile Rocks or Andy Hiles or Steve Traps, and our faces will come up. Yeah, and then LinkedIn, Scrum.org, kind of the usual hangouts for us. I was going to say, the Scrum Guides is where you'll find a copy of the new Scrum Guide that we've all been talking about. In case you are confused after however many minutes we've been talking.
Yes,
but it's cool.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, of course, scrumguides.org is the most important URL to drop here. But for me, you can also find me on Twitter at Sjoerdly, Sjoerdly.com, and Scrum Facilitators with Jasper and Scrum.org. There's also stuff. LinkedIn. Feel free to connect, to ask questions, to interact, whatever you like this video. If it's on YouTube, press there. Whatever.
He's always wanted to do that.
yes, I've never done that before. So, and if you want to book us for a talk or a panel discussion on the new Scrum Guide for your virtual event, please do so. We're the four grumpy PSTs.
I just like URL.
Maybe that website's still available.